Once upon a time, in a vast forest, there was a snow-white rabbit who was best friends with a gray-haired monkey and a yellow-furred fox. They all lived with a hermit and had a happy life. The hermit was a kind person who treated the rabbit, monkey, and fox like his own family and often shared his wisdom with them. The rabbit and his friends loved listening to the hermit's stories and words of wisdom. They would sit quietly in front of the hermit, never blinking their eyes, nodding in agreement as he spoke. One year, a drought struck the area, causing the fruit trees in the forest to wither and the nearby rice fields to dry up. The hermit had nothing to eat and became so thin that he was nothing but skin and bones. The rabbit saw this and became worried. He gathered his friends, the monkey and the fox, and they all discussed what to do. With tears in his eyes, the rabbit said, "What should we do? If the hermit doesn't have anything to eat, he might starve to death." The monkey scratched his head and said sadly, "Yeah, the hermit has always been good to us. We should think of a way to help him." The fox furrowed her brow and thought for a moment before saying, "I have an idea. Let's split up and search for food." The next day, at the break of dawn, they set out on their mission. The monkey sprinted over several mountains and ran through several barren forests. The scorching sun made his eyes feel blurry. Finally, he found a fruit tree with a few dry fruits still hanging on its branches. The monkey was overjoyed, and he quickly climbed the tree to pick the fruit. He happily carried them back to the hermit. The fox ran around the meadows, but he couldn't find any small animals to eat. He tried fishing in the river, but to his surprise, the riverbed was dry and there were no fish to catch. He went to the nearby rice fields and found that there was a famine. There was no grain to be found anywhere. The fox thought to himself, "Food is really hard to find these days. Maybe the rabbit and the monkey found something to eat. I'll just gather some dry branches so we can start a fire when we get back." As for the rabbit, he hurriedly ran to the fields to dig up some carrots to bring back, but the fields were bare, with no carrots to be found. He then rushed into the grassy thicket to look for some wild vegetables to bring back, but all the wild vegetables had withered in this dry weather. The rabbit searched here and there, not daring to stop and rest for a moment. As the sky gradually darkened, the rabbit realized that there was nothing delicious to be found. He could only hang his head dejectedly and return to the forest, feeling as heavy as if he had been filled with lead. The moon rose in the sky as the rabbit returned empty-handed to the vast forest. Spotting a faint light emanating from the hermit's cave, he couldn't help but feel hopeful. Maybe the monkey and fox had already returned with food? However, upon entering the cave, he found only a few fruits and a pile of dry twigs on the ground. There was no substantial food to be found. The monkey and fox were ecstatic to see the rabbit return and eagerly asked, "What did you bring back?" The rabbit looked at the sick hermit lying on the bed and shook his head in shame. The monkey and fox were disappointed, and scratching their heads and stroking their chins respectively, they didn't know what to say. Seeing the rabbit return, the hermit weakly sat up and kindly said, "It's good that you're back. You've all endured a lot for me. I imagine you must be starving, so go ahead and eat those few fruits. Ah, my illness is quite severe, you don't need to worry about me anymore." As the hermit spoke, everyone was overcome with sadness and tears fell from their eyes. The rabbit, seeing that the hermit did not blame him, felt even more heartbroken. He looked at the pile of firewood in front of him and suddenly knelt down in front of the hermit. He said quietly, "I didn't bring anything back for you, and I feel so sad about it. You can't go hungry anymore, so I will sacrifice myself for you to eat." The rabbit had just finished speaking when he jumped into the flames. The hermit, fox, and monkey were all stunned and didn't know what to do. Just as they were about to act, the heavenly emperor saw what was happening from the sky and immediately reached down with his hand to grab the rabbit from the fire. Moved by the rabbit's willingness to sacrifice himself for his friend, the heavenly emperor said, "This brave and virtuous spirit of sacrificing oneself for a friend is rare. It should be seen by everyone in the world." The heavenly emperor lifted the rabbit in his hands and placed it on the moon. At the same time, he sent down a heavy rain, bringing the earth back to life, with fruit trees and crops sprouting anew. From then on, every time the round moon hung in the sky, people would see the rabbit in the moon and recall the story of how the rabbit had selflessly sacrificed itself to save others.